So apparently not everyone thinks neopronouns are cool. I've already said my piece on this other places on the internet. There's plenty of information out there. But like, as a very quick summary, most people don't use neopronouns in most real life spaces. They're not easy to use if you haven't really looked into this idea before, which is why most neopronoun users also have normie pronouns. Are neopronouns harmful to the trans community though? No. Transness is prioritizing self-empowerment and self-happiness over what society wants you to do. So that's why neopronoun users and neopronoun allies are cool and good and great for the trans community, and why cis bootlickers are the ones that are harmful. Also, hate and hate crimes against trans people happen because society has a rigid idea of against gender, and all trans people pose a threat to that. Transphobes think trans women are predators going for your child, and it's not because a random 14-year-old on the internet uses vampself pronouns. But really what I want to do with this video is respond to Calvin Guerra's neopronoun video, which should be coming out soon. It's Monday the 23rd. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to actually respond to anything that he says. I just want to use this video as inspiration to add more pronouns to my pronoun collection. I only have 4 sets of pronouns right now. Like, I'm making a whole Google slideshow of my pronouns and titles. And this idea is kind of stolen from my friend, but I'm not going to tag him here because this video might get a lot of negative attention and I don't want to send that to them. Hello, today is Tuesday, December 1st. Also, you're not going to be able to see things that I'm looking at on my screen because I don't know how to do that. I've looked at comments and stuff, so I kind of know what's going to be in here. I think I'm going to actually end up just responding to the things that he says because it is frustrating, and he also complains that people don't actually respond to him. Even though the information and resources are out there, it's been said, I've said it multiple times, other people have said it multiple times, but obviously he does no research. Glancing at people's TikTok bios isn't research. Okay, here we go.
I am going to finally be talking about some discourse that has been rampant on TikTok in the past couple months. Man, I never thought I was going to have to fucking talk about this whole thing again because I feel like the trans community has like over and over agreed collectively that this is dumb and that we don't like it and that we don't support it, but somehow it's a huge...
The perspective is so warped. I see it so much the other way. The problem is TikTok and other social media, they the algorithms and stuff, they want to show you the stuff that you agree with. So most of the content that I see is going to be supportive content. So like 90% of the trans people I see aren't supporting neopronouns, where it's probably the inverse for other people.
Of neopronouns. Now, disclaimer, I am transgender.
Me too.
For anyone who's new. So you know what that means? I'm allowed to have an opinion on it. And actually, anybody can really have an opinion on anything. I hate this fucking thing that the trans community does, where they run around and they're like, well, if you're cis, your opinion doesn't matter at all. I hate trannies. Really quickly before I start, I want to thank, if you don't know, you're very lucky. You've avoided the stupidity. I should probably get off TikTok, but it's kind of really, it was done with they. You know, we fought hard for they. We normalized they, made it easier for non-binary people to have a wider range of people use the idea that people can go around using nicknames and other weird things as pronouns. I mean, I've seen everything. I've seen kittens.
Neopronouns aren't the same thing as nicknames. Sorry. They're used completely differently in a sentence, and I have different attachment than the way I would a nickname. And for some people, if you just say it's just a nickname, then they still have to choose between he, she, and they. But yeah, kitten self, not for me.
Kitten self, that I've seen emojis used as neopronouns, and I've seen even.
I've seen that too.
This is probably my favorite one that sparked a lot of not Tumblr. Oh my god, I'm getting my apps mixed up. TikTok discourse, right? It was like BLM self.
Okay, that's not what started it. That was very much after. That was a response to actual neopronoun people. I didn't see that shit until way after I started talking about and using neopronouns. But yeah, I think it should go without saying that like certain things aren't okay to use as pronouns. And also in the comments, he says that he looked at the people who use these pronouns and they're like, they're not trolls, they're actually using this. How do you know that? Just because you look at their bio for a second and ask that in it doesn't mean it's legitimate. Do you know how trolls work?
Myself, I'm like, this is kind of racist. Like, don't you?
Exactly.
Don't you think this is kind of fucking racist? Like, just you're using like the movement for Black people's rights to help
Absolutely
stop police brutality for like your own fucking weird pronouns. Like, what is that about?
He's absolutely right there. That's exactly why certain things are off limits. Most neopronoun people don't accept that. Like everyone, as far as I've seen.
And of course, it was a white person that did it. Just saying. Not really trying to make any point there. I'm just saying I knew it was a white person that did it before I even had to go to their page to confirm that. But anyways. I know a lot of times people will say, all right, Calvin, why do you care what pronouns people are using?
Exactly.
Why do you care if people want to use emojis as pronouns? Why do you care if people want to use ACAB as their pronoun? Calvin,
same category as BLM.
It doesn't affect you, Calvin. It doesn't matter. Like, why do you care so much? What did they ever do to you? Can't you just...
Exactly. This is hilarious.
respect people's identity, Calvin? You're such a piece of shit, Calvin.
You respect people's identity? Okay.
Look, I've taken a step... Identity, Calvin? You're such a piece of shit, Calvin.
Yep.
You hate on everybody. You bully children.
Yeah.
Look, I've taken a step back from making videos, and usually when I see this discourse pop back up, I'm just kind of like, okay, this will go away soon. But my biggest thing that has been really bothering me and getting to me with this whole thing is I'll see just like this normal looking person like be like, no, I'm not using your fucking weird ass kitten self pronouns. Go outside.
I first heard about neopronouns in real life spaces. I first met people using neopronouns in real life spaces. Also, how normal something is in no way dictates if it's valid or not. That's the stupidest shit.
No one's gonna call you that. We'll call you they.
Some people do it for me.
The point of a pronoun is to make a sentence easier, to flow better, right?
It's supposed to replace your name for speed, flow, convenience. So your argument for not respecting someone's identity is that it's inconvenient. It's actually really easy to change your mindset on things like that. The same way it used to be like a mental hurdle to use singular they pronouns for people.
Anyways, do you see how dumb that sounds, right? It's just you keep... So that's like...
It sounds dumb because you just haven't heard it before.
So like, let's say that my neopronouns were frogself. Calvin went to the store because Frog ran out of eggs to make for Frog's sister's birthday. Calvin
That sounds great.
Frogself because like even I have to hesitate to do that because it doesn't make any sense.
This is the same thing people thought, like, mental hurdle people did when they first heard of trans people and they wanted to use the right pronouns for people who were probably still grouped as their assigned gender. Like, that was a mental hurdle at first, too. Everyone stumbled. Oh, yeah, and I added that to my pronoun list. And I like frogself, but I'm gonna mix it up and do toad.
I understand, we need to erase gender roles, and it's a completely different scenario. Like, let's take, for example, when I was pre-T, pre-transition, flashback to 2015, okay? Before I transitioned, most people were referring to me as she, using she pronouns. So when I came out, I started telling people, hey, I want to go by he pronouns. Even if you don't look 100% like a he or 100% what we denote as a man, people are respectful and will use that pronoun while you're in the midst of transitioning, just to get more used to it, because eventually you are going to be presenting as that pronoun. You're going to look like how we denote.
You're losing me here.
You know? So it's different for trans people when they ask people to call them by a pronoun, and it's just respecting their identity. But these people don't identify as a frog. Even if you do identify as fucking frog gender, you look dumb as frogs. Like, it's as simple as that. I don't care how much people want to say this, pronouns are gendered. You know, it doesn't mean that...
Why do pronouns have to be used based off of gender? Like, gender's not even that important. So why categorize people by he and she and they? Categorize me based off of the animals that I like. That's more important to me. But, like, does she mean girl? Yeah, sorta. But, like, drag queens often use she, her pronouns, but the person still, well, often identifies still as male. He, him, lesbians can still identify as women. It's actually not as strict as you think it is. These are made up rules.
Like a dude yet. You know, that's a very different scenario than somebody going by these random like words. I've seen rot self, trash self. It
Ooh.
even goes with like it.
Rot self? That's epic. Let me add that.
Sounds like you. What do you mean by that?
It's a great question. It means I've struggled with low self-esteem, so I vibe with the word rot, and I want to embrace it. I want to incorporate the idea of rot to my identity. Now, would I say rot is important to my gender identity? I don't know, I don't care, and it doesn't matter.
And because they say that the possibilities are infinite, you are never going to normalize it to a greater, vast majority of people. Meaning, at the end of the day, all you
Don't care.
accomplish by bringing up this neopronoun discourse and by saying that people are transphobic if they don't do that, you're setting the trans community back. The trans community put so much effort and so much work into
Now here's the juicy meat argument. I'm gonna just let him say all this stuff before I respond, actually.
normalizing they pronouns for non-binary trans people. I have no problem with they pronouns. If you use they pronouns, that's super cool. But at the end of the day, yes, pre-transition, I would have rather had people call me they than she. So if we normalize that, that actually does help people's dysphoria. It's a gender-neutral pronoun. And they all say, oh, it's neurodivergent people using neopronouns.
Since he's not really staying on track and talking about neurodivergent people now, let's talk about that. I'm neurodivergent. Why do I not know or care about my gender identity and shit? Everyone else has these ideas about gender, like normal society has these ideas about gender that I just can't understand. And honestly, I feel like that kind of gives me a more objective view of it to better critique it. But yeah, I don't understand gender the same way as everyone else, so I don't really care about the fact that pronouns are supposed to be about a binary gender thing. But you don't have to be neurodivergent to understand that, which is why not neurodivergent people use them.
Say, oh, it's neurodivergent people using neopronouns. This is my issue with the whole neurodivergency being inherently correlated to being trans. There is a correlation between ADHD and dyslexia. I have both of them. There are a lot of neurodivergencies and learning disorders and mental disorders that overlap. There's a lot of people who have anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
The issue with the trans community is that when they go out and they run around, they're like, oh, there's this huge correlation between autism and gender, and if you have autism, you're probably trans because you don't experience gender the same way.
I haven't heard that. I mean, it makes sense to me that the autism could affect someone's ability or sense of gender, since it's mostly society based, to identify as trans, but that doesn't mean everyone with autism is trans. Trans is an identity that you have to identify as trans. This is kind of long, so I'm just going to try and skip to look at other points. And then he talks about how he doesn't like that people say gender is a social construct when it is. I can make a whole video about that. I might.
Okay. Neopronouns. Setback for the trans community. We already have a gender-neutral pronoun. You're not even using it to denote your gender.
Okay, hold on. I see it the exact opposite as setback. It's progress. It's great because neopronouns prove that people still don't care about you or will treat you like shit just because they don't understand you. Problem is, society attacks things it doesn't understand. And that's what trans people should work for. Normalizing transness and they them pronouns is great, but we're never going to solve that until we address the fact that society, it only hated trans people or like they them pronouns because it was different and they didn't understand it. You should respect people without completely understanding them. Oh yeah, gender neutral pronouns. A lot of non-binary people don't see themselves as gender neutral. They're beyond the binary. They don't want to be gender neutral. Their gender isn't gender neutral. It's above and beyond. Some people use it to denote their gender. I don't think it really matters either way. And as far as you're just using it as an aesthetic, if it was just an aesthetic, it wouldn't be that important to people. Even if it's just an aesthetic, why does that matter?
That's so stupid. These are all like low-key. These are all low-key turf rhetoric.
Oh, really?
It's all just turf rhetoric. It's like
Explain.
you went so far
Explain.
left that you started to go back right. You circled back around. You made like a huge circle, dude. Holy fuck.
You're gonna have to
Here's
explain.
why I really decided to make this switch, guy. You're taking away from what actual transphobia is. My friend Sasha said this the best. If you're posting about neopronoun discourse
I've heard
100
this
times
one
a day,
too, but
you better be promoting 100 GoFundMes for Black trans women of color that have been victimized. You better
Hold
be posting GoFundMes of trans people who cannot afford medical care. You better be actually contributing to the issues that are actually very prevalent and serious in the trans community, instead of just talking out your ass about something that's fucking stupid and that does no good for the trans community long.
not you weaponizing the deaths of Black trans women. If you think you're doing great stuff for the trans community, how many of those GoFundMes have you donated to? How many have you shared? Because there's not any.
For the trans community long run, you guys just want to feel like you're involved with.
Like I said, what have you done?
You're not. You're not. You don't have dysphoria.
I have dysphoria.
Most of these people, you don't have dysphoria. You don't transition.
Again, the perspective is so warped. Most of the people that I see use neopronouns are also dysphoric, transitioning people.
You're just looking for any way, shape, or form to be part of the LGBT community.
I've been on T for almost a year. Not that transitioning or dysphoria should be a factor, but since it apparently is. But yeah, nice job making assumptions.
Be part of the LGBT community, and through identifying as some silly gender that appropriates what being non-binary is, and by using pronouns and calling people transphobic for not using those emoji pronouns that diminish what actual transphobia is, you're sending the trans community back and saying, you have the right. You can identify as a to not support that and to not like it.
Yeah, you cannot support whatever. That's a little different than shitting on everyone. You know what he does.
Fucking stupid and makes the trans community.
I want to respectfully not support you, but also I think you're fucking stupid.
They look bad, and you have the right to talk.
And also you're a shit stain on this community. That's great.
Tell me that I'm being transphobic. But at the end of the day, I can still come back and tell you, and I will tell you, and I will tell everybody else.
I'm so glad
that
to hear.
you are a joke, and you are diminishing what actual transphobia looks like. And
Keep going, just keep going.
in my opinion, I think that the people that are using neopronouns and trying to say
What
that
do you
they're
think?
transphobic for not using them and doing all these things that just make the trans community look bad, you are being transphobic. Because you are doing something that causes a mass amount of people to look down upon trans people and think we're stupid and think our identities are a joke.
It's not my fault other people think it's a joke. How's that my fault?
You can think that this is all a joke. So you are doing way more harm than anybody else. These are the people that say that I do all this harm, I do all these things that are awful. But what gives me solace and what makes me feel better is I know at the end of the day, I have changed hundreds of thousands of people's opinions on trans people.
Good for you, except for I used to watch you and support you, and now I don't.
I have helped normalize.
Also, once again, the like-dislike ratio
is what trans people can look like. That trans people are.
There it is again with all that appealing to being normal. I think that's ableist and transphobic. Because trans people are inherently not seen, well, inherently is not the right word, but they are not seen as normal. And that's not because of me, it's because we challenge all of their gender ideas, all of their stupid made-up rules. The idea of a man having boobies is, they already think that's a joke. As far as what I've done for the trans community by spreading my whatever, telling people that it's okay to be different, I think that's really awesome. And I've had experience. People have opened up to me, trans people. It's crazy because people actually want to open up to talk to you and be friends with you when you're not a fucking asshole. If they feel like you're not going to judge them no matter what. because that's what I'm trying to go for. I'm willing to bet that Calvin's friends and family don't feel half as comfortable opening up to him because of the way that he acts. All Calvin does is make people feel like shit. He's not like evil. I know he's done some good things, a few good things. Like I watched him early in my transition. I think we came out like around the same time. Like whenever I was doing research, I was looking at his like, this is my voice 2 months on T. I had to wait for his voice updates, and like seeing his transition is what made me excited to transition. So this actually kind of hurts on that level. But then again, by me sharing my transition and knowing that seeing other people's transition helped me, I know I'm helping other trans people just by being open. So that was basically it. But yeah, my pronouns in order of preference: he, him, dove, dovaself, us, self, pog, poggerself. You don't really say emoji pronouns in real life. Toad, toad self, rot, rot self. At some point, I'll probably talk about how gender is a social construct and what I think dysphoria is. Because in my anthropology class, I'm in college, I learned that both gender and race are a social construct, and I think that's really interesting and important. And like, of course, I'm gonna do actual research, and I did actual research on neopronouns. I might link some of the things that I looked at actually in the description. But yeah, have a great day.